When Paz de la Huerta first came forward about Harvey Weinstein, the NYPD called her case credible. The DA did nothing. The media called her unstable. Long before Me Too, in 2010, Paz spoke to a journalist, but her story didn't go anywhere. It is now 2026, and the Epstein files are kind of out. Everything she said is starting to make a little bit more sense. Hi, welcome to the Whistleblower Collective podcast. My name is Elle. This podcast exists as an extension of a nonprofit that I'm working on building. Mainstream media has consistently failed survivors of systemic abuse, not by accident, but by design. Our mission is simple: to give people whose stories that have been buried, distorted, or weaponized against them the chance to tell them on their own terms. We are completely independent media, so before we get started, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. Today, we are talking with Paz de la Huerta. She is an actress, a model, a painter, and a healer. She grew up in New York City. Her family is connected to the Spanish royal family. She made her film debut at 14, appeared in the Cider House roles, and became widely known for her role in Boardwalk Empire. She was fired from Boardwalk Empire, then made to do a movie she didn't want to do. When she refused, she was then hit by a truck on set. She considers it an assassination attempt. That is all public biography, but it is the smaller part of the story. In 2017, Paz became one of the first women to come forward on the record against Harvey Weinstein, not anonymously, not in a settlement, but by name in Vanity Fair with dates, locations, and details. The NYPD investigated. The chief of detectives called her case credible. The Manhattan DA chose not to prosecute. Weinstein's lawyers called her an unstable personality with a vivid imagination. The media largely agreed with Weinstein's lawyers. What the media did not report was the context around that story, while they amplified her distress. Paz has described being groomed from childhood within her own aristocratic family and trafficked into the entertainment industry that was for her not a place of opportunity, but a continuation of the abuse that she endured throughout her childhood. She describes her mother, who she refers to as Judith Bruce, as someone who functioned within the same networks as the men who abused her. She has described connections between her family, Jean-Luc Brunel, the modeling agent and documented Epstein associated who died in French custody in 2022, and an aristocratic European system that treated women and girls as currency for men with power and money. She also has refused on record to make false allegations against Marilyn Manson, despite documented pressure to do so. In a media environment where adding her name to a list would have given her more attention and potentially more legal leverage, she said no. A person fabricating allegations for attention does not do that. In 2026, with the Epstein files being released and survivors finally being heard, the story Paz has been telling for years is gaining more attention. The coordinated efforts to keep her from being believed, the media smear campaigns, the psychiatric interventions, the people who entered her life claiming to help and instead extracted what they needed, they all follow a documented pattern. She is just now getting safe. And this conversation is not about relitigating or reliving everything that was done to her. She has done that work and she is still doing it. This conversation is about what happens next. What healing looks like when the institutions designed to protect you are the ones that fail you. What justice looks like when the legal system is run by the same people whose names are in the files. What it means to be an artist, a painter, a healer, on the other side of it all, or still in the middle of it, which is closer to the truth for most survivors. It is with great pleasure for me to introduce Paz de la Huerta to the show. Hello, Paz, and welcome.
What I want to focus on this podcast, now that I've just left another traumatic situation, is to tell survivors how to positively navigate what will always be a difficult situation. I want to focus on my spirituality and moving forward. I'm very well aware of what's happened in my life. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm at this point in my life that I'm just like, I have to accept that there are some very evil people that will always want to hurt me. I just had to leave my own home on a farm because I have evidence that I posted on my TikTok that someone involved in me renting the house, this farmhouse, which was supposed to be my refuge, was being paid to torture me by my family, in his own words. Now, I have never suffered from any mental illness, but a lot of people want the world to think I am crazy. Now, my family has been able to pay off film studios, lawyers. I mean, if anyone does a really deep dive in my story, they will find out this has been going on since 2010.
Looking at the full arc of your story, what do you want people to understand the most about what you've experienced?
I have been so incredibly brave in my life, and I have never wanted my life to be marked by this scandal. I am first and foremost an artist. I am an actress. I am a model. I love doing all of those things. They don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
I have filed multiple lawsuits, even in the time that I removed arid filler and I took that money. I had my own apartment in Madrid. I couldn't even safely stay there because of Judith Bruce. Now, I want the audience to understand, and I have a transcript that I can email you out of me going to it in 2010 about Harvey and Judith Bruce. Now that the Epstein files have been released, not that I need the evidence that there are voice messages between Judith Bruce and Jeffrey Epstein to tell the world, I've been telling the truth my whole life. No. I have emails, I have survived over 1 million assassination attempts. What I need now at this point in my life, because, they're old, right? My mother, how old must she be? 80?
80 something, right? I think we said 1946 or something is her birthday.
1946, yeah. They're old, but that doesn't mean anything because these people are satanic. And, for anyone that's really learning about, Satanism, they're parasites, right? So I have to find a different strategy because I do want to live, right? And I knew I wasn't safe on the farm. Actually, right around my birthday is when I started telling my real story on TikTok because I knew that I had that fundraiser for over a year that raised hardly any money. And I just had a sixth sense that I had to get out of there. I didn't know what was telling me that, but I knew I did. Had I not made my TikTok and started telling my story, which also was a part of my healing, you understand? It's easy to tell someone, your book can't get published because, Jane Fonda, who's evil, who's a huge part of the Satanic Church and was best friends with my mother, that a bunch of narcissistic Satanists don't want my book published, right? I get it. It's not fair to me as a human being to not share my story. I'm also an actress.
A lot of survivors of organized abuse will say the hardest part is not the events, but the way that these institutions, these coordinated media efforts have treated you after. Would you say that that's your experience?
Yeah, like I said, I've never wanted my life to be marked by this nonsense. I have only wanted to be left alone to marry a number of men I've loved. And even in a wheelchair, men fell in love with me. Even with a brain injury, men fell in love with me. Even being trafficked in a fucking under 50 euro hotel a night, I had men after me. They have not left me alone. But I have to note, and this is what I want survivors to understand, this is a spiritual war. And if you fight them with their own evil, you're not going to win. You're not going to win for yourself, most importantly. It will destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. They're narcissistic, you know?
I'm not saying don't stand up for your rights. What I'm saying is the legal system is corrupt.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that it's not like when I finally ran away, my old therapist used to say to me, he said, Paz, you weathered the storm. You can have any life you want. It's not like when I finally got relatively safe, I didn't try to get back my career. That was the first thing I thought about. I started doing modeling shoots and I painted. I'm a great artist.
Yeah. And I mean, it started when you were
And I
young.
didn't want to go back to the old tapes, but I had to. And I will note that in the time that I started telling my story on TikTok, the files were released.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe in like a collective energy, then like we are
Yeah,
getting
and I
accountability.
wanted it too, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
within that time, at least, now the world is giving me some vindication, which I should have received in 2010.
You know, we're revisiting like people like you, people like Annika Lucas who have this story that has
Oh,
been,
she's great. She's great, Annika
yeah,
Lucas. She told me personally that the Me Too movement is co-opted and corrupt. And I was unalived during the Me Too movement for the second time. I had a brain injury. I mean, at least another positive that came out of me making my TikTok is I've now retained very good Christian lawyers in Los Angeles
oh, that's
who've
great.
taken my case on contingency.
That's great. Yeah.
And we're reopening the Weinstein case because I never signed that retainer.
Yeah.
A number of things. And they're going to go after the fraudulent institutions they put me in, like the mental hospitals.
Yeah, you've been sort of subject to, you know, Judith, of course, and all these other
Oh,
people working to capture you, basically.
gaslight me and torture me. And I
Yeah.
don't even want to give them names anymore. I've decided, thank God I had the intuition to do that TikTok because a very good Christian man donated enough money that I flew out a shaman, I'm not going to say from where, to do plant medicine with me. And it made me very aware that I was not safe, but that I was divinely protected. And within those 3 days, I was trying to rent a house on the property. And I'm not saying everyone involved was evil, but it only takes one person who is evil to know my location and give it up to have everything go bad, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just say within that time, I won't say who the shaman is, but he knew something wasn't right either. And I received messages at night saying, my family paid him to torture me the last 3 years. I'm a pseudo actress, that he was going to come over the next day and kick my ass. I mean, things that I bet were bottling up inside of him for 3 years because, if I go back, there were signs. There were signs. And I will tell you, in the past, 5 years, my family made sure, I said it in Anna's podcast, that if I ever escaped, they held on to my belongings, my artwork, my acting awards. Each of those third parties I've had to go through, they offered money to give up my location. I've dodged many bullets.
They captured you, and I'm curious because I've been researching this sort of aristocratic tie to what seems to be, you know, some people call it a satanic cult. I have been studying the origins of it as sort of a Luciferian secret society or whatever you want to call it. I'm curious if you want to speak on that. Just
Yeah, I
more
will
interested.
say it very calmly and clearly. So, I come from the Spanish aristocracy. Now, my family, if you want to do a deep dive, has been around for, centuries. And my family, in fact, funded the Queen Isabella, which brought Christopher Columbus to America. right? This is how far back their genocide goes. So Epstein is not dead. Let's get that clear.
Yeah.
And, I have evidence and I post updates on my TikTok because you know what? I have deserved none of this depravity in my life. I'm a good person. I need to move on with my life, but I have to be more strategic, find a different strategy. I did what I had to do to survive at certain points in my life. You know, had I not made the TikTok, I wouldn't have been able to tell the most important parts of my story because only God knows why my book has not been published yet. But my life isn't over either, is it? Whatever it did, it helped get good, honest people like yourself aware of my real story. It got the shaman there. Iboga is an incredible plant medicine that, I don't know if you know about Iboga, ayahuasca, things like that. I will say the aristocracy, Arnaud Brunel, who is Jean-Luc Brunel's brother, shares
Yeah.
a drive with my father. I mean, how closer can I get to Epstein? This is
Yeah.
his financier.
And I
It's my
think
uncle.
because of the Epstein files, people are starting to reevaluate your story, and that's good because it's lending you more credibility.
Yeah, they wanted to paint me as a fucking nut job. And
Yeah.
don't doubt that my family, and not just my family, I don't want to give people names anymore that don't deserve names. I have more trauma with women than men because all of my traffickers were women. They were women who were envious of me. It's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ghislaine was too. I mean, there's a lot more of them
Yeah,
too.
so I think Virginia Giuffre said that Ghislaine was worse than Epstein.
Yeah. And they're fighting to try to free her right now, but it's like
I don't think she's in there.
that
Is
that
what I'm
is
telling
that
you.
is also that's also a thing. Yeah. I mean, whatever puppet show we're receiving is most likely different than what's actually happening.
What I'm trying to say in this podcast is what you can do with your voice and your platform is bring awareness.
Yeah.
What I can do is do my best to get my real story told and to protect myself better. Because thank God that shaman came when he did and got me to safety. Now, the only power all of these demons have, and I'm talking corrupt lawyers, corrupt activists, corrupt movements, a number of corrupt people, is by putting me in a situation that will destabilize me so people won't believe me.
And they do it intentionally.
Yeah, they've been doing it my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's not fair. And I'm not crazy. I speak 3 languages. I scored the highest IQ in the history of St. Anne's School. Nobody deserves to be hit by a truck.
No.
Nobody deserves to be drugged on lethal amounts of medication since they're a child.
All these women in Hollywood, we're starting to see it. I don't know if you've heard Hayden Panettiere's come forward with
Who?
Hayden Panettiere.
I
Name
don't
right.
know who that is.
Just celebrities come out and spoken about sexual abuse recently. These people who these women who go into the Disney Channel or whatever, and then they end up being like controlled and
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say it very calmly. I think the world knows at this point, whether there are those who admit it or not, that these things happen, that satanic ritual abuse is real, that a lot of evil people have done it. In my personal quest for justice, I need to move on with my life.
Mhm.
I want to help people genuinely because I am a survivor, but I also need to, like, little things. I have to choose my battles. You understand?
oh
I
yeah.
have to, after so much deceit in my life, and deceit is the name of the game, I have almost become like an expert at sociology. So at this point, I'm not trying to sound racist. I will only be around Christians. Like, and even with Christians, I will practice great discernment.
Hmm.
I have witnessed what people will do for a dime.
I totally understand that. And, people come into your sphere, maybe not with bad intentions, but then the money shows up and then they,
So at this point, I'm somewhere else now. I left the farm. I'm working with plant medicine, which is very good.
hmm
I'm healing on a deeper level, which I need to do. But
yeah,
I can tell you is that my family orchestrated a number of things alone in the past 3 years so that I would miss the statute of limitations in New York for the fraud case.
yeah,
Get it?
yeah.
But I didn't because it's technically 6 years. So I've only been receiving my residuals as an actress since November 2022. And I will tell you that I will be lucky if I get $50 now. I am not Judith Bruce. There was a time when I got $40,000 a week in a residual. I mean, they took everything from me. That case alone is fraud. So on this podcast, what I will tell you is I am looking for a very good New York civil lawyer that will take that on contingency and secure me my money, who can't be paid off, because that will at least give me the more autonomy I have over my life. I'll be, everybody needs that. If I can buy my own home, all I want to do is move on. That's all I've ever wanted. They don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
With my discernment, Christ acted through this shaman and Christ acted through another friend. I'm keeping my very close friends anonymous. I'm not posting pictures of people with me on my Instagram. If it's a modeling job, if it's an acting job, and it's after the fact, I'll post pictures. But I have to get on with my life. This is ridiculous, right, El?
Oh yeah, and I mean the most important thing for you is to be safe,
Yes.
And
And
like
it's so heartbreaking with the animals. You know how on the farm, my beautiful animals, when your dogs start dying, that's a fucking sign something's not right.
do you think that they poisoned your animals?
I knew that I had to put them down, and I knew the statement that I was making to both Mary and Jesus was, Mommy has to stay on Earth, and you guys can protect her better in heaven, but I gotta stay alive,
Yeah.
right? And
I'm
I
so
had to leave.
sorry.
No, but I'm just saying it's a spiritual war, and they're never gonna leave me alone. This is just something that I must accept, and I have to be wiser. Michael Rebel, who was my therapist many years, he used to tell me for years, go to AA. Like, even if you're not an alcoholic, just go to AA, but even in those rooms you meet sick people. It's really a series of tests and discernment.
Yeah. And it will keep you safe too. Like if you trust in
I,
your
I, I had
intuition.
not one pill in my system, and I quit smoking recently.
Oh, that's great. Congrats. I know you talked about a little bit about your healing, or basically that you had all these memories that they came together for you at a certain point because of the iboga. I'm just kind of curious how that kind of worked for you. Like, was there a point where like the fog lifted and you were like realized what was going on?
Why Eboga is how I escaped them 5 years ago when I was still being trafficked. Like, I was still being raped by my father every night, and I had pain in my vagina, and I was like a fucking zombie. And my best friend, and they were financially handicapping me. And James paid for the Eboga. He paid 900 euros in Madrid, and because of that, I pieced together many events and ran away finally. Judith thought she was going to get her big payday with the Weinstein settlement. And, granted, Aaron Filler was always her lawyer, and it was their plan to steal it. So after my dad's last assault, a few friends put together some money, went to LA, removed Filler, and I took that money, right? And even then, I wasn't safe. I just did it again. I think iboga is a powerful medicine. It recalibrates the brain. It
Hmm.
for trauma, for people who have addiction issues, many things.
Yeah, I've experienced my own PTSD, and like your memories kind of are shattered, and when you're able to pull them together, that's kind of when you start to heal. And I mean,
Yeah.
have you started writing at all?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. For me, right now, after having been quite traumatized, I've started to cry a bit, which is important. I was in flight or fight, and I was dissociated. Now I'm grounded. And the iboga, in my iboga experience, I had a vision of the Virgin Mary from the Cathedral Almudena come to me. And this is amazing because 5 years ago in Madrid, when I was in that 50-euro hotel a night, being gang raped every night, starved to death. I mean, this is a woman with $600 million. There's no excuse to put her goddaughter in a hotel like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm with the bruises. I have evidence. I've posted the emails. It's atrocious. I went to that church and she protected me. So in my iboga experience this time, I felt her presence and that I'm divinely protected.
It sounds like it's been able to help you kind of center your nervous system, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. And then iboga is so amazing because it helps you like piece together everything. Because you have to understand these predators. There's another woman I started following on Instagram who kind of specializes in the smear campaigns, the gang stalking, all these sorts of things these do. Once you become aware of these intimidation tactics that predators will use, you know, you become wiser.
Oh, yeah.
That's you can do. That's the best you can do because, of course, evil, corrupt, satanic people don't want to go to jail.
Oh, no. They never want to take accountability. They never want to go to
Oh,
jail.
to apologize. These people, they're narcissists through and through,
I mean, I
right?
hate, I hate to say it, but like, you're not going to probably get accountability in this life from some people.
No, I mean, who knows? What I can say is that at least the LA attorneys took the case on contingency, and of course, I'm able to reopen the Weinstein case. But where the quickest money is a New York civil attorney. But I just want a good lawyer to step in, take it on contingency, recover that money, buy a home, and be done with this story. Choose a man to have a baby with, and just, you know, I never wanted my life to be marked by this scandal. I am a painter. I am an actress. I'm a model. I love doing all those things. I have wanted to be left alone.
You're also a healer, too.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. That means a lot. This is what I am now. I'm a healer. But
Yeah.
real artists are healers, right?
Well, yeah, and I think, you speaking out, I do see this as like there are people who are going to see what you say, and
Yeah.
whether you see it or not, you are going to help encourage people to come forward and speak their truth, and
Well, that will make me happy. And I just hope, I'm also rebellious. I'm also punk. I've always been punk. That's why I
yeah.
was a fucking threat to these demons since I was a child. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, but in the best way, in the most Archangel Michael way, right?
Hmm.
You know, like
Yeah.
this is the kind of rebellious I am. And I love being rebellious, and I don't care. And it took me a really long time. And what I want to tell other victims of these horrible, satanic, narcissistic demons is half the battle for you is going to be figuring out that you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, that is so true.
I let that sunk in as a child, oh, it would have, this nightmare. And I'm not going to call it a nightmare because I'm going to transmute all this insanity into making me a better person. But had I learned that as a child, I would have just saved myself a lot of suffering, let's say.
You can even look at it now too, because I know with my story, I've tried to like put a meaning onto the suffering, and like that never ends well. But if you look at it now, like I see you and I'm like, only someone as strong as you could go through that and then shine a light. And so, I hope you can see that in yourself.
I think at this point I've said my piece. I've really named all the people that, I'll make it very simple. Anyone that has not supported me, or anyone who in the slightest has gaslit me, or anyone who partakes in gossip, end of story. Anyone, men and women, who partake in gossip, I will not associate myself with you, and I will add you to the investigation. End of story. End of story. I have never wanted to be known as a victim. I am a survivor. I am an actress. I am a model. I'm a painter. And thank you for saying I'm a healer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want drama in my life. My life was marked by a series of, an envious mother, two envious mothers, Judith and Christina, and my father, who is in love with me. I mean, and my father, these people, if they couldn't have me, they wanted me dead. And dead or in a bed, I mean, and even Ryan, I will say this much. I love this girl, Ryan, who's become my friend, and she's a stripper. And I will tell the audience this much. There's no problem with beauty. Beauty is a beautiful thing. And beauty is inner. Beauty is inner. I have female friends, all shapes and sizes. What I look at when I look at a person is I look at their soul. Look at the eyes. I was listening to a beautiful podcast about Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And Jesus referred to Mary Magdalene as the woman who saw with her heart.
Yeah.
And I keep doing this mantra. I am no body, I am no mind, I breathe light, I breathe God. Because, and I was just studying about the name Sophia. My full name is Maria de la Paz Elizabeth Sophia. Isn't that interesting?
It's beautiful.
So Sophia, now that I'm in a new place, I think I want to go by Sophia.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast where it's about Sophia uses a protection of invisibility against evil.
Kind of love that.
Right?
Yeah. So, what are your next steps? Like, are you working on your art again, or you're still getting sick?
Housing, I had to pay rent where I just left my studio, my artwork. I have a few art shows lined up. Christina alone in Seville. I mean, Christina, this woman, Judith is one thing, Christina is another. Christina murdered her fucking husband. Christina stole my money and her mother's money. And then you have my sister, who stole my Aunt Corina, who was murdered and was a victim of my grandfather. I mean, these people are just vile. I mean, there's every which way you look, there's like a pattern in the family. And I'll just say it what it is. The very beautiful breadwinner women being preyed on by the evil, narcissistic, insecure women who steal their money and the men raping them. That's the story.
I mean, that kind of, when I look at like some of the Epstein stuff, that's kind of a pattern. It's like generational.
Yeah, they've been doing this forever. And it's just at the point where, what are my plans? My plan is to be wiser, to, for better or worse. I now need to live. I just, I believe plant medicine also can reverse the aging process. And I speak positively to myself because I'm not going to let those demons come close to me, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have to get a modeling agent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to spend some time working with this new shaman because I really, I've been going to church a lot. I am very keen on filing in New York for the fraud case.
Yeah, which I'm also going to link all of your GoFundMes and everything. So hopefully we can.
Thank you, sweetie. And then I will just say the Spanish penalist is very good, Danny, that my aunt found me because he's the only lawyer that I actually know of that's won cases against my father.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
my
great.
father, the Duke of Mandas, he is such an insane, evil man. And he thinks he's so fucking untouchable, right? This is Arnaud Brunel's best friend. This is Epstein's financier's best friend is my father.
Mm-hmm.
Started raping me at 5. Only 5 years ago on 9/11, 2021, beat me to death. I have the bruises. I posted it on my TikTok. I had to have my real story told in order to move on. Whether 100,000 people see it or not, it was a part of me being able to grieve. And I think it's very unfair for the people who have been supposed to be working on my book to tell me, certain things like, insinuating I'm brave, but I don't know if he is, and the powers that be. Let me remind myself and let me remind other victims, you didn't do anything wrong. So why am I being shamed? Why am I being silenced? If you are saying the powers that be are not letting my book come out, I wrote an email today. I said I need an answer. I said I've reached safety and I'm rebuilding my life bit by bit. I really respect you as an intellectual and a writer, but I gotta choose a different direction if we don't care about each other as people.
Well, I've said too, instead of saying the powers that be, I've been starting to reframe it as the powers that were.
That were, thank you. Because
And
for me, they've lost.
and
They have lost.
so you have this book, you have someone helping you write it, and it's like maybe your publishing will look different because you don't want to necessarily publish within the system that's run by all these pedophiles, right? Like, have you considered maybe like a Substack or some kind of?
Yeah, I want to get a computer and start writing there. Here's the thing that just boggles me, and I just want to tell people I've been accused in my life of being arrogant. I said I'm learning boundaries. I wish I had learned boundaries as a child, but there are things in my nature that will never change. I'm pure. That's not going to change. I can still have boundaries and still be pure. And what I just want to say is that me, someone who has been friends with people like Jack Nicholson, who is a wonderful man, Christian, orphan, Bernardo Bertolucci, however you want to look at it, life is complicated. Things are complicated, but there are certain crimes against humanity, like hitting your daughter with trucks, giving her brain injuries, and beating her to death, that you just can't do. And other things, the gaslighting, the smear campaigns. I want to tell the audience, if you've ever been a victim of a smear campaign, I came upon a lawyer who I'm going to talk to, named Rebecca Zung. And she very wisely breaks down 5 steps. And not only is it a civil suit, a smear campaign, it's a criminal. And not only that, I broke it down on my TikTok. You can get your exploiters to pay your legal fees.
I love that. And like, doesn't it
So
open up discovery too?
what?
Doesn't it open up discovery too if you have a civil case?
Oh, yeah, all sorts of things. What I will say is that I don't want to spend the rest of my life in lawsuits either. I
No.
have to choose battles.
Yeah. My next question was to ask you what justice looks like, but it sounds like that's kind of your answer is,
To continue healing
Mm-hmm.
and boundaries. Oh, boundaries are my favorite thing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's important too. If you've lived your whole life, I'm sure that they groomed you from a young age to not have boundaries, so.
Or, I mean, what they've done, I mean, it's so horrifying, the depravity I've been subjected to. And, I would love to see support from good people in the industry. At this point, what my friend Ryan said, who's a very interesting girl and she's a stripper, she said anyone that hasn't supported your justice paths is either satanic, subhuman, jealous, or narcissistic. End of story. If you can see those bruises on my body, if you can see me being unalived, like, you gotta question. And I will say this much, until I can buy my own house, stayed around safe people. People
Yeah.
who will not in the slightest gaslight me. I not only am I not crazy, I am full of light. I am full of light. I've always been full of light.
Yeah,
I have a happy soul. I love painting. I love acting. I love modeling. I love beautiful things. And I want other survivors to protect their heart, to protect, just remember who you are, your innate, right? Your essence. Don't let that's what I want to finish with. What has been so cruel of what I've been subjected to, and most of it has been jealousy. I'm just going to call it what it is. I'm a very beautiful woman. I'm very talented. I haven't wanted my life to be marked by this drama. It's been very sad for me to have my voice, which I feel is very important, silence. I'm very smart. I speak 3 languages. I'm very intellectual. I've read every book, and all those years in the mental hospitals they put me in, I invested myself in spiritual practice. So I would love to build a movement, with people that, understand that, hopefully, and I'm so happy you said this, Elle, that it's the powers that were,
hmm
right? That's a beautiful thing you said.
I mean, I look at all of these media smear campaigns. I've been covering some of the stuff with Maxwell, with Lisa Volding, and I see it as really just weak. Like these
Oh, it's
attempts
just
to
so gross.
muddy the water, and when you start to see what the truth is, and that these people are really sad, and that they just must live just a sad life, and
Depraved. They're
yeah.
depraved. And
And
Kerry Goldberg, who was the first lawyer assigned during the Me Too movement on my Weinstein case, will have to testify that Judith Bruce was in her office the day after I retained her. Right? I've kept notes. And I mean, everything I've said that really needs to be said, I've said on my TikTok in the last 6 months, and I did it for a reason. I had to get it out of my system. And I made that TikTok as an act of transparency in the same way that those files were released, because I never committed any crimes, and I have never wanted my life to be marked by this terrible drama and the depravity. I mean, I can tell you stories of just, and like I will say, you're a beautiful woman. You have inner beauty. In the bit I've interacted with you, you've respected my boundaries. You haven't called me at all hours of the night. You have behaved well. I can't say the same for any of these so-called demons that are out there pretending to advocate for victims. These people are trash to me. They are trashy, and I don't want anything to do with them.
yeah, I mean, I think that Weinstein was
And was very respectful too. She's a nice woman.
I probably think I listened to her. I watched the one with Anna, the
Oh,
ego
she's
here.
lovely. She's
Yeah.
lovely. What I want to say is I need to get back to making movies, but with
Yeah.
good people. I want to finish my movie Valley of Tears, sell my paintings, buy a home. I have never lacked talent. I need It's my money. Like, is this so hard for people to understand that I've been working since I'm 12 years old, and that my mother and Christina and Carrie Malcolm, CRM management, also in the Epstein files, stole millions of dollars from me? Not only that, when I took that bit of money to run away, they've chased me all over the world for, I don't want to say how old I am, but this is ridiculous. This is, oh, what else can I say? I pray that 5 months ago, a detective called me from human trafficking, and they said they couldn't tell me who they were, but that they were taking the case very seriously, and they asked for Christina and Judith's addresses in New York.
That's great. I wish for you to see some semblance of justice, and also to be able to move on and to heal and get your story out there. I feel like your story could easily be a movie. I'm
not going to say who, but there is one photographer I really like his work, Anton Corbin. Do you know who he is?
I don't know.
He's someone that strikes me as not only talented, but an intellectual, and also good man. I met him briefly. I wrote his manager. I would like someone like that to maybe do a documentary.
Yeah, that'd be great. Get as many eyes on your story as possible. Because we are within the system of, the legal system that's corrupted, but the real justice and the first step for I always see is like you get the information out, and that's what everything changes after that.
And to be on a healing path.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm safe now. I feel safe. Like I said, I'm going to be wiser. I'm not going to post pictures of myself with my friends. It's not worth it. No amount of vanity is worth putting my friends' lives at risk or mine. Right?
Yeah. Well, I know we're at the past 45 minutes, so I want to respect your time.
Catch-ups, like.
Yeah. I'm happy to, make a couple of them if you feel it, if you want to. I wanted to say one thing I'd like to start on this podcast for whistleblowers. I want to start this tradition. I'm hoping you're up for it, but where the first guest leaves a piece of advice for the next guest. I don't even know who that person is yet. So do you have advice for someone coming forward that you think would be important to share?
Closer to Christ, you walk the better. Walk with Christ. Like, keep your eyes on the cross. That's my advice.
That's beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Paz.
Love you, sweetie.
I love you. You are amazing. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, I'm going to go to... You see, also, I will say one more thing, Al.
Nothing.
I'll say one more thing. I don't have not one pill in my system now. Given that my father and mother started getting me drunk when I was 5, but given that my mother started having me be put on sleeping pills since I was 5, this is a huge feat. I don't have a pill or a cigarette, nothing. So, I also will tell any survivor, especially when you've been a target of gaslighting and all these horrible things, the best thing you can do to start getting your freedom is by taking care of yourself and your health. All right?
Yeah. That's also really good advice. Thank you. Yeah. It's important. All right. Ciao. Less than a day after we filmed this conversation, Harvey Weinstein's judge declared a mistrial. Paz de Huerta deserves justice. The systems that failed her, from Judith Bruce to the handlers that followed, to the media that looked the other way and smeared her very image, being so much worse than Weinstein, are still active right now. She's still fighting. If you can donate or share her GoFundMe, the link is in the show notes below, as well as other podcasts and media that she has done. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe.